$3,800. You know, just they went some. They did some. Yeah, we bought one baby for I think $550, and then a pair. Everything this one.
As soon as we make sure it's working. Okay.
Good.
No, I forgot my stuff. Hold on. I'm not gonna see some shit. Since working on damn okay.
Okay, because we talked. Just want to see that. You good?
You wanna wait for Miss Carla? You can start.
You gotta be kidding me.
You could just mark down what you get to.
Yeah, what you get to one more person.
Let it rip.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the St. Martin Parish Council Joint Committee meeting of Tuesday, August 18, 2026 at 4:30 in the Carol J. Fugely Meeting Room of the St. Martin Parish Government Annex Building. Please silence all cell phones and remove all hats. The public may comment upon any item which requires a vote by the St. Martin Parish Council. We ask that you fill out a request to speak form located in the back of the room. Once completed, you'll bring it to the sheriff deputy who'll give it to me. You will have 5-minute time limit on everyone that speaks. Ms. Narcisse and Mr. Melisson excused. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a prayer led by Council Clerk Ms. Brooke Thibodeau.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Porter, will you lead us in the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Item 1, Breck Salyers, Biologist Manager of the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, to discuss the Henderson Lake Drawdown.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Pete, how are you doing? Good to see you again. I appreciate y'all having me. So we have proposed a drawdown to St. Martin Parish again this year, and basically the reason that I come here each year, a lot of you have seen this presentation last year, year before, but we try to do this just to address any public concerns or if there's any council concerns before we go forward with actually starting to let the water out. So hopefully this will be informative and kind of give you guys an idea of what our reasons are and the the justification of why we have recommended this for so many consecutive years. We have 3 problematic plants in Henderson, really just 2. Hydrilla was a very bad plant, a very problematic plant, I should say, for a long time, up until 2014, and that was the year we really got control of it. It was very, very bad up until that point. Henderson is about a 5,000 acre lake at pool stage, and it had about 2,500 acres, so 50% coverage up until 2014. At that point, we, due to the first time we had a drawdown in a long time and stocking of grass carp, and then the way the river came up early, kind of late fall, early winter, and then stayed up for a long time with muddy water, we finally got control of the hydrilla. That picture on the left shows you what it looked like on the flats. That particular plant, anytime a piece breaks off of it, it now becomes another viable plant. And so you can imagine if you go through there with an outboard motor and you chop all that up, anywhere that plant goes downstream, it can reattach. And so when you're talking about an area that's about 3 feet deep, that's why that whole area was infested with that plant. Our 2 biggest concerns are the water hyacinth. Lilies is one of the local names for it. That's a South American floating plant that can grow up to 3 feet tall. It's been here for over almost getting close to 150 years now. It was unfortunately brought in as an ornamental, for aquatic gardens and things like that. It escaped cultivation, and it's been a terrible problem ever since. Historically, we used to treat 3,400 acres of that just on Henderson Lake. We do not have a dedicated spray crew on the lake anymore, and so now we completely rely on contract spraying in order to try to combat the hyacinth. And our newest problematic plant is giant salvinia. We first found that on the lake in 2012. Coverage has expanded each year. Anytime we have a mild winter, which is good for our tropical plants, our hibiscus and our bananas and all that stuff, it's also really good for these tropical exotics that like water hyacinth and giant salvinia. And so those mild winters are very detrimental to the lake in the sense of those plants significantly expanding. The 2 things about the last 2 plants too, the water hyacinth and the giant salvinia, their growth is unbelievable, especially right now, hottest part of the year. We've got 115 degree heat index. The lake is almost black-brown colored in some areas because of how much nutrients are in there. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But basically, the giant salvinia can double its biomass in less than a week. And so if you think about from a management perspective, I've got 10 acres of this plant I'm trying to spray. In 1 week, I'm talking 20 acres. In the next week, it's 40 acres, 80 acres. So management is a nightmare for both hyacinth and giant salvinia. Eradication is impossible. We're never going to eradicate either one of those. We're going to have them just like chicken trees and mosquitoes and fire ants. They'll be here forever. But management is what we're trying to do. So even if we do a drawdown, don't do a drawdown, spray, don't spray, they're always going to be there. But trying to manage it and keep boating lanes open, keep access open, and keep fishing areas open is really what our goal is. The water hyacinth too, I've over the years, people have said, how come you guys don't get mechanical harvesters and come in and try to just lift that stuff up? And we've tried that before. We've had different companies that have demonstrated that and brought us, tried to show examples. In some areas, it might work, but in places where you have a lot of stumps and you have a lot of shallow areas, not to mention that water hyacinth, one healthy acre of plants weighs about over 200 tons. And so you think about the logistics of getting all of that and hauling it to shore and then unloading it, and then where are you going to dump it whenever you do. So really the most effective thing for water hyacinth is either spraying it or having a drawdown. So we have an integrated approach to our aquatic vegetation control, and that 3-pronged approach is the biological control, mechanical, and chemical. With biological control, obviously we stock grass carp, and that feeds on the hydrilla. Grass carp will not eat plants that float on the surface of the water, such as the water hyacinth and the giant salvinia we talked about. They pretty much like submersed aquatic vegetation. They can eat some alligator weed because it's under the water, but they really don't don't selectively choose that. They would rather have coontail, kabamba, hydrilla, those types of things. The other little picture up there, the little black beetle, that's a giant salvinia weevil. And so that's, giant salvinia is from South America. There's also, there's a weevil that's native to South America that feeds on that. Obviously, when they brought it up here, it didn't have the weevils on it. It escaped cultivation from people's aquatic gardens, just like it always does. But so that is a natural predator for that plant in its native range. Well, we didn't have that here, and so giant salvinia for years and years went unchecked. And we started a program with LSU Ag Center of trying to raise these weevils and mass produce them and stock them in lakes and water bodies that have a giant salvinia problem. And they're very effective at what they do. They're good at control, but you have to be very patient. It's a waiting game. You stock them and they do some damage and they spread and some damage. So it's not an immediate thing. And so it's just kind of something that you have to continue to do and maintain, but it does not, it's obviously not effective immediately. The mechanical control is through the use of a drawdown, or as I mentioned earlier, some kind of mechanical harvester or something like that. Those mechanical harvesters, like I said, are just not feasible in most of our water bodies. Henderson is another example of a water body that just doesn't work in. And then chemical control. That's where we used to have spray crews that would go out, had a spray crew Monday through Friday. Every day they were on Henderson. Now we have to rely on contracts. We have a couple companies here in South Louisiana that we contract to go out there and spray. And I do want to mention that those chemicals that they use are EPA approved for aquatic use only. And so what I mean by saying that is the fish are safe to eat. Crawfish are safe to eat. The EPA has extremely stringent testing and a very rigorous program that these chemical companies have to go through. And it takes a long time to get one of these labels approved through the EPA. And so everything that we use has been approved for aquatic use. And that means it's safe for ducks, it's safe for fish, it's safe for people swimming in the water. And so I've seen some comments, on Facebook and social media where people worry about are things safe to consume after we spray chemicals in the water. But it is approved by the EPA for aquatic use. So it's kind of a history of some of the control efforts that we've done. Like I was saying at the beginning, spring 2014 was the first time we had stocked grass carp in the lake. We came back with another stocking in 18 and then another stocking in 19 to where we put about 52,000 grass carp in the lake. And that is how we have finally gotten control of hydrilla. I've also had some concerns from bass fishermen who love hydrilla because fish tend to congregate where those grasses are. It's great cover. The problem with hydrilla is it's also a very aggressive growing plant, and you really can't maintain it. You can't just have a little bit. It's either all or nothing. And so you saw the pictures we had, or the one picture earlier where we had 50% coverage of the lake. The hydrilla is still in there. I see it every year when we do a drawdown. There's some in the Dixie pipeline. There's some on the boulevard and the spool banks around the I-10 bridge. But for the most part, there's no way to just maintain a little bit of that. If we could just get a good buffer of it, that would be wonderful. But that's just really not how that plant works. And so, unfortunately, we're trying to stay on top of that, of keeping the hydrilla at bay. The giant salvinia weevils, almost 300,000 weevils that we've stocked since 2013. They did have a good. Each year we would go back, we could see damage in the early spring from the weevils. But some of these past years, we've had these really, really hard freezes in the winter, and we don't think that those bugs are making it through the winters. Now, somehow the plants are making it through. So explain to me how that's possible that the bugs die but the plants don't. Unfortunately, that's just the way aquatic plants are, though. They can find some little overhang to get underneath and something that shields them, protects them from the frost, or they're under cypress branches, and any kind of little bit of cover from that heavy frost or freeze is enough that plant can survive through the winter. And so that's why we'll continue stocking weevils and possibly grass carp if we see that's necessary. Here's just a little overview of like the last 10 years, maybe 12 years of our efforts for having drawdowns. A lot of years have not been successful, whether it be mechanical issues. As you guys know, we used to have a lot of problems with the hydraulic lines with the southern control structure. St. Martin Parish obviously got a good grant this past year and did a lot of work to that, really beefed up that southern control structure, and it's good to go now. And so those recurring problems with the hydraulic lines should be in our rearview mirror. But also that lake is totally dependent on rainfall, whether that be rainfall up in Ohio that raises the Mississippi River, which is going to eventually raise that Chaffalay River, or when you're talking rainfall like St. Landry and Avoyelles Parish that got 30 inches of rain in Cottonport and Mansura that all comes down through basically Bayou Catawba, and it's diverted into Bayou Catawba because that's part of the Army Corps' flood control system. Whether it be that type of rainfall or Mississippi River rainfall, everything, the drawdown is completely dependent upon that, on not getting that rain, basically, is what I'm trying to say. This right here is just a hydrograph of those same years. It just kind of shows what kind of water fluctuations we're talking about. In a lot of years, you're talking about a variation of 12 and 13 feet. When we draw down, we try to get to close to 6 feet, and there's been a lot of springs here recently where the water levels are as high as 18 feet at the Lake Pelva gauge. So 2014 was the first time that we were able to have a drawdown. Before that, it was an issue with the Army Corps issuing us a permit. And then we finally got the permit renewed, and it was in perpetuity to where we could, as long as we followed the stipulations of the permit that the Corps gave us, we could continue to try to have these. 15, 17, and 19 were years where we had problems. We couldn't even try it, whether it be because of the river levels or some years you have these tropical storms that pass. I'm gonna knock on wood saying that. We're not gonna have that this year. But a lot of these years where Tropical Storm Nicholas and Francine and all these different storms have come through, and it dumps a lot of rain, and so that can totally end the drawdown, and so that's happened a lot of years too. I did want to mention one other thing on that. So we have been trying to do this since the fall of '96. That's what we've recommended this. And I do want y'all to understand too, that this drawdown is not unique to just this lake. Across the state right now, there's 12 of these going on, including Henderson. And so, or the proposed Henderson would be the 12th one. So that's just a management tool that our department uses because it's by far and large the most, the cheapest and most effective way at plant control for water hyacinth and giant salvinia. And most all of our water bodies in South Louisiana, or in Louisiana in general, are infested with these two plants because we have very nutrient-rich waters, we have very hot summers, and so because the combination of those two, the aquatic plants just grow almost unchecked. So we have been attempting these since the fall of '96 up until let's see, what year was that? Until 2012, 2013, we always had a lot of opposition from the private, not opposition, but there was obvious reasons that the private boat launches along the boulevard did not want this to happen because there's a lot of swamp tours that they do out of there. And if we drew down too far, they wouldn't have access to the boulevard anymore, and they lose a lot of business. So for obvious reasons, we don't want to stifle their economic abilities. And so for a lot of those years, nothing was done. Through the Chaffalay Basin program that used to be housed in DNR, we were able to get some money in 2012 and 2013, and we dredged the boulevard and all of the private landings at McGee's and Basin and Mr. Kearns, and we were able to get Cypress Cove. We were able to get all those opened up to where if we did a drawdown, they would still have access. And so that's kind of why in the last 10 years we've been trying to do this every year. But obviously, as you can see from that previous slide, a lot of the years are not successful, and so we just try to do the best we can whenever we can with it. Let's see. Okay, here, recent control efforts from the chemical aspect. Here is the amount of money we've spent on chemical contracts over the last roughly 10 years. This year has been unique in that we have spent right at $250,000 already on spraying Henderson Lake, and we still, if you've been out there recently, you've seen what it looks like, and people were posting pictures of the public ramp of just the lilies all the way to the to Lake Pelba and beyond, and it's bad this year. The reason it's so bad is because of that 30 inches of rain that was diverted in from Bayou Catawba. It flushed all the plants that were in the woods that normally just kind of hang there and just kind of sit around. Between May and mid-June, the lake rose 6 feet. And so that 6 foot flush that came through just pretty much washed all of the lilies out of the woods. And so we have been fighting it ever since then. But so if you think about a drawdown, though, all it costs is the electricity to open the structure, the 3 or 4 feet, whatever the diameter, the width is that we open the structure up, and then gravity takes care of it. And so the water just drains out. And when it does that, it strands hundreds of acres of those plants, John Savinian water hyacinth, along the edges of the spoil banks and on the edges of the levees. And so it's basically free, is what I'm getting to, or at a very minimal cost. Without further drawdowns, multiple contracts will continue to be needed as the plants continually grow and spread. And our budget for aquatic plants is getting more challenged because these plants are everywhere. And there's a lot of water bodies in Louisiana. So when you talk about $250,000 on just Henderson, that's a big part of the budget. And so obviously, if we can alleviate that and focus that money, the rest of the budget in other places, that's what the ideal scenario would be. Just as a discussion here, the plants grow faster than we can manage them, as I mentioned. John Salvinia doubles its biomass in a week. The water hyacinth, it's about 8 to 12 days that it can completely double itself. And if you ever tried to take an outboard through those giant rafts of water hyacinth, if you just got a 15 or 20, 25 horse, you might as well turn around. You're not going to get through a huge raft of that. The pro drives, surface drives do a better job, but it can make navigation much more very, very difficult. So the plants grow faster than we can currently keep up with, that's why we try to do everything we possibly can, the integrated approach of every scenario that we can come up with of trying to treat these plants. That's what we do. And there's an abundance of habitat in this lake that is inaccessible to boat-mounted spray equipment. When you talk about the North Woods, there's a ton of cypress trees and buttonbush and understory plants that those plants get back in. And even if we had spray crews that could go back in every corner back there, a lot of the refuge where these plants are at is inaccessible because you spray it and you're going to be hitting the cypress needles or you're going to be hitting the buttonbush. And we don't want to do damage to these other plants. That's not obviously beneficial to the plants or to our budget for just spraying herbicide and hitting it on a non-target species. And so so a lot of that area is inaccessible. And a lot of years the Chaffalay River stays up until comes up in December and stays up till July. And so there's like a nursery ground basically of area in those North Woods where the plants just grow and grow and grow, waiting for situations like this year where it just flushes out and there's a ton of plant material. So multiple contracts are needed annually, and it just continues restriction of boating, access, hunting, fishing, et cetera, et cetera. So our recommendation is that we conduct a drawdown. Once we reach pool stage, I just checked the gauge before I came over here earlier, and I believe it's at 10.3 right now at Lake Pelba. And once we would get to 9 foot is when we would propose starting the drawdown. And we would draw down to about 6 and 1/4 feet is about where we would get to. And we recommend doing that at a rate of 2 to 4 inches per day, so roughly 3 inches a day. The reason we go slow with that is that as the water is coming out, it pulls from the North Woods and it pulls from beside the levees, and it can stir up some of the inorganic material on the bottom of the lake. As that inorganic comes into the upper part of the water column, it now uses the dissolved oxygen that's available to further decompose. And so that stresses the fish out and the crawfish. So we go at a slow rate like that so that we don't stress the fish out, and we do everything that we can to avoid having a fish kill. So that's the basis behind that. The time frame is normally from August 1st to November 1st. The reason we pick that time frame or that we have always historically gone with that. You can't do one in the spring because that's normally our wet season. The Chaffalay River normally floods because the Mississippi River is flooding. Then we also, that's our wet season for rainfall, so you're getting water from Bayou Catawba that's usually coming in at that time. So normally we don't see, a normal year, which we haven't had that in a while, but a normal year would see the Chaffalay River coming down in June, July, something like that. And then August would be the first available time that we could start drawing down. That's also the hottest part of the year, August and September, it's 2 very hot months. We want that heat so that if we draw down to the point where the north and south flats at I-10 are exposed, it'll dry that ground and crack it. And what happens when that ground cracks and breaks open and sunlight is getting in between there, it's a lot of that inorganic material we were talking about, that stuff is breaking down and rotting because it now has air that's getting to it, and it's rotting. And that lake bottom that used to be just like a mud slough is now hardening up. So when the water comes up in the spring, the fish have a much harder substrate that it's better spawning habitat. So in like the spoil banks, you think about the spoil banks, when they totally dry out and there's emergent vegetation that comes up, when the water does come back up in the spring, this new emergent vegetation is food for your macroinvertebrates, it's food for crawfish, and it's going to be cover for your young fish. And like I said, the spawning habitat is greatly improved. So our goals in doing a drawdown is that we strand hyacinth and water salvinia, water hyacinth and giant salvinia. We expose the hydrilla, even though there's not that much hydrilla anymore. We dry and compact the lake bottom for the improved spawning success, which makes better nesting habitat. That leads to basically greater recruitment from our sport fish. And then improved availability of the forage for predatory species. When we draw down in an area like the flats go dry, those fish all go into Lake Pelba, Lake Bijou, the deeper areas of the lake that are, between 15 and 20 feet deep in some of those spots. And so when you combine all your fish together in a more concentrated area, your predatory fish like your largemouth bass, your sac-a-lait, things like that, they have better access to the shad and the forage species that are in there. So if they can get a good, eat a bunch of shad during the fall when we have a drawdown, they go into the spring with a better body condition. So they've put on extra food storage, they've gotten a little bit of fat maybe, and that helps with egg production, the energy they need during the spring to spawn, et cetera, et cetera. It's also going to increase the available nutrients for plankton growth. So when that ground desiccates and breaks apart and dries up, a lot of that rotten stuff now becomes nutrients for when the water does come up. It'll help for a plankton bloom that next spring. And then finally, it just mimics the natural historic swamp regime of spring flood and low water in the summer and fall, which is what we see in the Chaffalay River every year. This year we almost had 18 or 16 feet of butte rose at one point. Now here we are down to 3 feet. So it's just mimicking what the natural swamp conditions are, basically. And with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
I got a few people that fill out the request to speak form. I'm gonna let them come up and they can ask.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Either respond or ask questions. Mr. Jake Kern.
Yeah, how you doing?
I didn't see you back there.
Mr. Kern, you can just come up, state your name at the podium for the record.
My name is Jake Kern. I'm the owner of Kern's Landing, located on the levee across from Pat's. My question, okay, y'all been doing this for years. I remember at one time y'all started. First of all, bought my property. It's all family owned. Been having that since the 30s. We got 40 acres right there. And I remember y'all started the drawdown, and y'all would do it like every 4 or 5 years. Okay, you're incorrect in saying that all the landings are open during the drawdown because I'm completely dry.
Oh, yes, sir. No, I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. No,
Just want to let you know it shuts me down for 3 months every year.
yes, sir.
Minimum.
There's only 2 landings that stay open during the
Yes,
drawdown.
correct. They did they dredged they started to dredge the boulevard, okay, and they got past turtles, and then they stopped. So I'm dry on that.
I didn't realize they never came
Yeah,
down.
they never came down to me, just to let everybody know. Okay, so every year I'm shut down for a minimum of 3 months. 4 years, I'm shut down for 12 months. I'm shut down for a year. I'm just coming here to learn if this is going to continue every year so I can prepare for it because it really hurts.
Sure.
I miss Labor Day. I miss all that fall fishing. You know, and is it worth it? Because I'm not a fisherman, but I talk to the fishermen every day. And they tell me it ain't no better than it's been. In fact, it's gotten worse the last couple of years. Last year, I was shut down for 6 months. Okay, we didn't get no water in the winter. Never came in. I got no control over that, you know, but I'm here to learn and find out what I gotta prepare to do in the future. And know that in dredge all the way to Kearns Landing. Okay.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and who was in charge of that? Corps of Engineer?
That was just a contracted job that was paid for by Department of Natural Resources money.
Okay.
So they got money through the legislature.
Because you see, what happens is the boulevard dries up. I can still launch right there, but you can't go anywhere. I got houseboats there, they can't go anywhere for 4 months. You know, they can't go fishing or anything like that. So if I can get any help on that end, I sure would appreciate it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And that's why I'm here, to find out if it's gonna continue every year or if it's gonna go back to every 3 or 4 years.
As far as what we recommend, to answer your question, Mr. Jake, we would definitely be okay with alternating.
Right. For the recording, can you just?
Sure, yes, sir. Yes, to answer Mr. Jake's question, we would have no problem with taking a break in situations like this year when the vegetation is so bad. That's really our primary reason, is we're trying to do it for aquatic plant control.
Right.
And I know that, like, you go out there and you say, the plants are still terrible. You had a drawdown last year, the plants are still, it's due to all of those factors that we have no control over. There's tons of that nursery habitat in the North Woods. As far as the fishing goes, we've seen, last year was actually, last fall, we did see a spike in recruitment of bass, but we've had a lot of bad years of water in recent years. And we're seeing the same thing in the basin. We've seen the same thing in the several South Louisiana water bodies, in that the fishing has really gone down. And one thing that I really want to stress for Henderson Lake, that for people to understand and remember, we're trying the best we can with what we've got as far as making it a fishery. It is part of the Army Corps' flood control. I'm not blaming the Corps here, because they keep us from flooding, and that's more important in most people's minds than fishing. But it is, that water that's in that lake right now is absolutely terrible. Like I'm sure you've seen it at your landing and going over the I-10 bridge. That, when you got 30 inches of rain all the way from Cottonport down, and some of those 20 inches, 15 inches, whatever they got, you got to think there was all that ag fields, and I'm not bashing farmers here either. I love farming. But when those ag fields get 10 inches of rain on them, it washes all that fertilizer and all that nutrients off. And that's what we're dealing with right now in the lake, is a massive algal bloom that's going on because of the nitrogen and phosphorus that came in with that six foot of water. But I'm getting off topic. To answer your question, we would be more than happy to take a break and give you guys the boat landings the whole year's time. If we this gentleman in the next to last row, that's my counterpart with aquatic plant control. That's Ryan. He was doing a really good job this year. He tried something new and was going in and aggressively hitting those plants, spraying plants starting in April. Most of the time we kind of wait till it starts to get bad, but Ryan had his contracts in place early on, and we really had the lake looking good. And this would have been a year where it's like, you know what, we don't really need to do a drawdown. Let's just float this one, and we'll talk about it next year and see. But because of what happened with all that rain and that really bad flood water that came in, it would be beneficial if we could get that water out of there. Anybody that's been out on the lake this year, it is terrible right now.
And let me ask you this.
Yes,
why
sir.
do you stop, if you're gonna do a drawdown, why do you stop it at 6.5? Why don't you just draw it all the way down?
We have to stop if we go below
because of
6.0 feet. The Army Corps on Indian Bayou, there's an Indian burial mound that is on the Army Corps' property.
Yeah.
And therefore, they want to make sure that's protected at all costs, the integrity of that burial mound. Mm-hmm. So in the permit, it states that if we get below 6.0 feet on the Lake Pelba gauge, St. Martin Parish is responsible for 24-hour security detail out there. So they would have to hire a deputy to be out there 24 hours a day.
I always wondered why.
That, obviously nobody wants that. They don't want that on their budget. The deputies don't want to sit out there at 3 a.m. and twiddle their thumbs. So that's the reason that we stop at 6 feet.
So if I have any questions in the future, I can contact
Yes, sir.
you
Yes, sir.
or-
Absolutely. My email's there, but I'll give you a card. I've been coming by your landing for
Yeah,
last
I know.
couple of weeks to check it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kern.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Scott Brosser.
Hello, I'm Scott Bronson. The reason I'm up here is where I duck hunt in Henderson, which is the Platin.
All right.
There's no passage at all right now. I mean, we can't even get back there with a gator tail. It's been like that. Last year, we had 0 hunting days, no water, vegetation. All we know is somebody can go back there and spray for us. You know, try to keep it up. You know, it's bad right now. I mean, Mike has a blind back there, and he hasn't been to his blind since, you know, the Savanias all over, the Flotons all over. Yeah, that's all we're asking for. I know we can't do nothing about the water, you know. But at least to go back there and spray. Go back there and spray, you know, just to help us out a little bit.
Yes, sir.
That's the only thing I had to say.
Yes, sir. I be talking to Mike. I was actually speaking with Mr. Mike earlier, and in certain parts of the lake that don't get utilized very frequently, there's not a lot of fishing there, there's not a lot of boating. We normally don't spray those until they're requested because we just try to keep the main areas open. We're going to hit the Boulevard, we're going to hit Fort Dost, we're going to hit Pelba and Bijou and et cetera, et cetera. But if there's certain areas that people request, absolutely. There's no problem with us coming and trying to hit that for you. You can either request it through me or with Ryan in the back.
I will. I will.
We'd be happy to look into it for you.
Thank you all very
Yes,
much.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brosser. Mr. Mesh.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jody Mesh. I'm on the town council in the town of Henderson. I served in the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion Board for over 20 years, and I'm on the Atchafalaya Basin Levee District. I represent St. Martin Parish on the Atchafalaya Basin Levee District. I'm commissioner for St. Martin Parish. I'm a commercial fisherman. Today I went sport fishing, but I went to Grevenberg. I didn't go in Henderson because Henderson is a toxic soup right now, you know?
Terrible.
The past couple of years, Mr. Chairman and a bunch of my buddies been catching some sakale. Some of them catch up to 2 or 3 pound sakale that was unheard of over the last 10 years or so. And I attribute it to the 25 gaps in the Dixie pipeline for making the water flow better. I heard you say right now we have some terrible water in Henderson. All of the water that comes in the basin is pretty much terrible for one reason or another. It's all run off from somewhere. Fuels, sewerage, chemical, plant input, you name it. Moving bad water is better than stagnant bad water. I can't understand why y'all are waiting so long to do the drawdown. I don't know who has that mandate. I don't know who's calling that shot. I was fishing crawfish in the basin. About 5 weeks ago, the last height of the rise we had on the Atchafalaya River, it started falling out. Those gates have been closed. So you're not allowing a natural process to happen on Henderson Lake. If you remove the man-made structures, it's going to naturally fall out with the river. All of your cypress bottoms and everything in the basin where I went today, they're starting to dry out. You have an excess of 3 feet of water in all of the cypress areas in the Henderson Lake area. Whose call was it for 5 weeks to leave those gates closed? All of that hypoxic water could be flowing out and down and making its way to the Gulf of America, and it could go deposit somewhere else, and whatever's going to happen. Flowing bad water, moving bad water is better than stagnant bad water. And then to add to that, poison, I don't like poison. I know we got to keep all of the natural bayous open for boating and everything. I know how to navigate through water hyacinths and hydrilla and all of that. And then when I go look for crawfish, I want to find some water hyacinths. I'm going to find some crawfish, and I can show you some pictures of some boatloads of crawfish caught in water hyacinths. And my gator tail and my airboat passes in there, no problem. Poison, when you poison all that stuff, like what you're doing right now, with that on top of the algae bloom, the water looks like, y'all remember that Prestone 2 green antifreeze we used to put in our radiators? That's what the lake looks like now, all over the place. It's green, streaky, all over the place. I hadn't been sport fishing in years. I bought me some fishing poles lately. I bought me a tackle box, a bunch of jigs. Mr. Chairman's been catching some beautiful sac-a-lait, my buddy Jackie. I'm not gonna say all their names, but they've been catching some beautiful sac-a-lait there. They're making me jealous and they're making me hungry for some good sac-a-lait. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch a sac-a-lait in there this year. You know what I'm saying? I thought that thing should have been open weeks ago. Why y'all are waiting so long? I don't understand it. It could have fell out naturally with the fall of the river. To me, when you don't have to worry about any boat landings having problems, any issues, that thing should be open so the fish could migrate in and out the way they want to migrate from the river into their spawning area. You know, Brack, those fish migrate all over the place. If there wouldn't be that locks at Simsport, they would migrate all the way to the northern parts of the country. But I can't understand why y'all waited so long and y'all still haven't opened it yet. You know what I mean? I was hoping for a fall fishing season, productive fishing season, but I don't know if we're going to get it. And I made some comments the other day. I took Channel 10 out there. The mayor set me up. He didn't have time, or he doesn't do his boat too good anymore, so he said, call Jody Mesh. He's going to take you. She called me and said, I'll take you. And I told her my preference, you're going to draw it down? That's fine. You can draw it down, but leave some water in your slough bottoms. When we leave water in the slough bottoms, we catch crawfish early the next year. It would apply in Henderson. Henderson used to be one of your early places you could catch crawfish starting in October, November, through December, January. You start getting to February, March, the river starts backing it up, the water stays more stagnant, and you can't save them. You can't make your trap stick out the water, they're going to die in your trap. That's an issue you have. But I can't understand why those gates have to stay closed when you don't need them to hold water. You know what I'm saying? And the water level's the same on the river. And I'm going to have to disagree with you. You said Butler Road went to 16 feet this year. It didn't go to 16 feet. It might have barely touched 13 feet. I watched that religiously. No, I do too. The problem in the basin this year, what we had with not being able to catch crawfish, and you might disagree. And look, Brock, both of y'all, I'm sure y'all have degrees. I respect. Y'all went to school. Y'all studied hard. Y'all passed your classes. Y'all got degrees. I graduated Cecilia. I studied hard. I was the top 15% of my class. I went 1 year to Louisiana Tech, I remember. I took some economics class. I studied hard. I passed my class. I respect your degrees that y'all have. I'm 57 years old. And from the time when I was a little bitty boy, I remember what that basin was about because I've been out there all the time with my dad and my brother and my uncle. And I've been talking to all them old timers. And I've experienced it for myself. That counts for a lot. We're dependent upon that place to catch crawfish and fish to make a living. We've hunted all our lives. I'm a duck hunter. I'm an avid duck hunter. I'm an avid deer hunter. I want the water to go down so those big bucks can back up in them bottoms and I can go ambush them when they're trying to get away from all the pressure. I know where they like to go. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I like a little water so I can get in there with my boat and get in them dry ridges, but the sloughs hold a little water. And then them young crawfish are starting in the wintertime. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know how it's supposed to work. Y'all need to employ the knowledge of those who have historically depended upon that place to make a living and have a world of knowledge about how it should work. It should have been falling for the last 5 months and y'all got it locked closed with. Who's calling the shot on those gates? Look, I'm not fussing at you, bro. But whoever's calling those shots, those gates should have been open 5 months ago. Considerably. When it's going to fall and it gets so low, then crack them close to where you're going to control your fall. But we got a lot of water should have gone out. That water should have been gone since 5 weeks ago. I said 5 months? 5 weeks ago. I'm sorry. Correct myself. 5 weeks ago, it should have started falling, for the record. But anyway, that's all I kind of wanted to share. I get frustrated when I see all these man-made structures. We deal with over 300 somewhat of them, all the way to the northern parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And we have to protect ourselves from flooding. But this year, sometimes we had an 18 to 20 foot difference at that hydroelectric plant up there, that control structure. And there was no reason why it couldn't have come up enough to top those spall banks because it was confined inside the height of the spall banks. And you didn't have a sheet flow of current. You didn't have a good current flow across that basin. And that's why we didn't catch crawfish and fish. We had crawfish early when I got started. It was 2-3 pounds to the trap. I was excited. I said, I'm going to make another good year this year. But when they played that water, from 9, 10, 11, 12 feet, it's got to get over 15 feet to make a current over the top of the spall bank. Because if it don't get over 15 feet, it doesn't overtop the spall banks. Mm-hmm. So it's dammed off everywhere. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. that doesn't have anything to do with Henderson. Somewhat it does, but that structure, since 5 weeks ago, it should have been open. We're way behind schedule. And poison, you're saying about how that decaying matter, is good. When you spray that poison and then plants die and everything, what happens? It decays, huh? Mm-hmm. And it adds to the hypoxic situation, correct? Don't you think if we'd have some water sucking that stuff out of there instead of it just staying stagnant, it would make it better when you spray it rather than leave it closed and stagnant and then spray it and add to the toxic soup that we already have?
It would, and I'll address that in just a second.
I think that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Did I go over my 5 minutes?
You good? Thank you, Jordan.
I want to catch some soccer leaves like what he been catching.
Oh, yeah.
We're not gonna invite you over here too many.
All right, I think I got the main 3 points from Mr. Jody's comments here. First of which, the control structure was opened, wide open, right when those rains happened in May. I talked to Jason Castile. He's the one that told me they opened them. They stayed open, draining his water out as fast as we could get until, and I talked to Mr. Chris, we talked on the phone, people were saying the fish are starting to pipe. The fish are about to start dying in the lake. That's when we closed. I called Jason and I said, can we close the structure? We don't want to have a fish kill. So that's when they were closed. But the water is still flowing out. If you go to that southern control structure, I was there 2 weeks ago, there was a 3-foot difference. There was a waterfall coming over that. So water is still going out right now. It's not as dramatic as it was because the lake has fallen from maybe 12 feet down to, it's at 10.3 right now, but when it was at 12 and the river was at 5, it was literally a waterfall coming over that structure. To address the spraying comment, ever since we saw that on Friday was the first time I noticed that. So we believe that that's blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, which is toxic. So that was something else I was going to mention, is that if you're fishing or something, you should not touch that algae because if it truly is cyanobacteria, it has cyanotoxins in it. It can irritate the skin. They definitely recommend not to swim in it. We're talking with DHH and DEQ right now, trying to get them to do a press release. We can't do that because that's not our expertise, but we're trying to get with DHH to do a press release and say, first of all, let them test it because they have the ability to test that and figure out what algae it really is. And if it is cyanobacteria, do a press release saying no swimming, no contact with that water, et cetera, et cetera. But the point I was going to make to Mr. Jody's comment is we saw that on Friday. No spraying has been done this week. We told the contractors to get out of the lake. We didn't like to continue to spray last week, the week before. I didn't like continuing to spray with the water looking as terrible as it was, but we're in the heart of the growing season right now, the absolute heart. This is the hottest part of the year, the fastest these are going to grow. And so if we stop for a month to try to, just because we're trying to let the lake heal itself, water will always heal itself, it's just given enough time. But if we take a month off during the heart of the growing season, remember what we were saying earlier, a week, you can double your biomass in a week for these plants. So and the reason the gates aren't open right now is because we try to come to the parish, the council, and get their blessing before we go forward with the drawdown. We hadn't had the opportunity to do that yet. The first meeting in August was booked up, and so this was the first chance that I was able to come and speak to the council. So that I think that addresses all your questions. I feel your frustration. And I can promise you that making it would make my job a lot easier if everybody said the crawfishing is fantastic, the fishing is fantastic, the best damn year we've ever had. That would make my job a lot easier. That's what we want. That's what we're trying to achieve, is make the best recreational opportunities, commercial opportunities for everybody out there. But this lake is unique in the fact that it's part of the floodway system. It's connected to the Chaffalay River, so it back floods, and then that backwater usually starts stagnating, like Mr. Jody said. Basically, we're going to just do the best we can with it. If no opposition from the council, we would probably look to open up the gates probably the middle of next week. I would think, based on we're at 10.3 now, we would be right at 9. But again with this cyanobacteria thing. There may be fish that start dying right now because that's toxic to fish as well. And so if we start seeing fish die, we may have to sort of postpone another week or so. I don't want to do that. I'd like to get that water out of there. I agree with you. Water flowing is better than not. And once we hit 9 foot, then yes, the water stops at the control structure. Nothing's moving. And I would like to get this water out of the lake absolutely as quick as we can. But we have to go slow with letting water out because the faster it flows out, the more likely you're going to have. It's almost you can. That's money in the bank. You can count on that there will be a fish kill. And those rapid drops in the Chaffalay River you were talking about, we did have multiple fish kills. One was in Bayou Benoit and one was over down at just north of me at Point. But when that river drops that fast, it pulls that bad swamp water, that really stinky, sulfuric smelling water out of the back swamps. And that will just fill the bayou up and the fish don't have anywhere to go. And so that's the reason we're trying to go slow with that, is to prevent that situation from happening. Because obviously we're trying to promote fishing, not kill the fish. Anyway, sorry, I got long-winded there.
Mr. Alexander?
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions right here.
Yes, sir.
I understand the part about chemical control, which was approved by EPA for herbicide treatments, and I was, referring to the gentleman over there that came and spoke about the water discoloring and by the, the fish is not the same anymore, and so, but I want you to tell me what's the difference with between the mechanical control and the chemical control. I know about the chemical control. What's the difference between both of them? The chemical and chemical. Mechanical and chemical.
Oh, between the mechanical.
The mechanical.
So the mechanical control would be having a drawdown, opening the structure to let the water flow out, or the physical removal of the plants somehow, whether it be through a machine or, if you had a 1 acre pond, you could just come in with a pitchfork, but like a hay fork, and get water hyacinth out that way. If you had a small enough, realistic situation. So the difference between the chemical control is spraying the herbicide, spraying the chemical, and the mechanical is simply by removing the plants through some mechanized effort, whether that be opening a control structure or some kind of machine that physically would take the plants out of the water. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but that's what he was asking over there. Why can't you just use the mechanical control?
Well, the mechanical is the drawdown. And so that's what we're proposing. Besides that, there's not any really effective, cost-effective, any means of mechanically removing plants like the giant salvinia and the water hyacinth. That it just gets everywhere, and so you really can't. If it was all concentrated in one spot, that would give you a much better fight to try to go down. But this is all over the entire lake, and so you couldn't navigate the 5,000 acres of the lake and pick up little pieces here and there. It's just not it's just not an effective enough. It's not an effective enough mean of control.
It's not effective enough like the natural.
That's right.
But how about the safety of people that's fishing, and or maybe you're getting this chemical in their system?
Well, that's what I was saying. It is EPA approved for aquatic use. And so by that means that it's not harmful to fish. It's not harmful to any aquatic organisms. If you sprayed it in your pond, you could still swim in your pond. You could smell it when you spray it, but it doesn't have a long-lasting effect. It breaks down quickly. And it does not affect fish as far as consumption goes. What Mr. Jody has said about when you spray that plant and it absorbs, it sticks to the leaves and it absorbs it and it will kill it. As it sinks down in the water, yes, it dies. And the rotting of that plant, the decomposition of that plant is going to use oxygen. But in spraying, in the amount that we're spraying and we try to spread it out over different areas, it's not going to contribute enough to the depletion of the oxygen to where you would ever have a fish kill, or it would actually kill any aquatic organisms. Like we make sure that we don't. Is there a better way to explain that, Ryan? That I'm not.
We don't concentrate the kill in one location.
Yes, sir. So it's not concentrated in one location. So like if I'm used to dealing with ponds a lot. People call it pond questions. So if you had a 1 acre pond, for example, and you had a complete coverage, the whole thing is covered with lilies or water hyacinth, we would tell you, do not go and spray that whole thing at once. Try to spray a quarter of that pond and let that die and fall out. And then the other 3/4 of your pond will still have enough oxygen left that the fish will be okay. But if you sprayed the whole thing at once and kill all of that, you're going to have a fish kill because you're going to use all your dissolved oxygen. And the demand for the decomposition is greater than what is available in that pond. Does that make sense? So we spread it out and don't concentrate too much in any one area to where it doesn't affect the aquatic life in that regard. But because it is an EPA aquatic use approved, the EPA has stated it does not harm aquatic organisms, and therefore it does not affect the consumption of organisms, like frogs or...
Question.
Yes, sir.
The plants, is there a safety hazard for the boats?
Wait, I'm sorry. If you could repeat your question.
The plants, the ones that you're spraying with a herbicide.
Mm-hmm.
Once you spray them with herbicide and they actually, gone, or they're just there in the water. If someone is in a boat, fishing boat, is that a safety hazard?
Oh, no, sir. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't following your question. But yes, there is no safety hazard.
That's what I was saying, but you answer my question.
Okay. As that plant rots, it's just going to keep going further down in the water until it'll eventually
Will
sink
you
to the
answer my
bottom
question?
and finish rotting. I appreciate your questions. Thank you. And thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment on behalf of all of the commercial crawfishermen here about water hyacinths?
Yeah, if you want to come up to the podium.
I'm gonna make a few comments for the council's understanding of what we see when we out there all the time, and we're depending upon catching crawfish, that we can buy bait, take that bait, put it in our trap, and put crawfish in our boat and bring them to the market and make a living, and then it multiplies 5 to 6 times all over our St. Martin Parish and our Louisiana economy. Let me tell you what we think, and every one of them in here would agree with me. Water hyacinths, we don't want wildlife and fisheries to come spray any water hyacinths by our crawfish traps. When we go looking for crawfish, we look for healthy water hyacinth covers, and you pull them water hyacinths, and if them long roots are almost bald-headed, that means there's some crawfish that's eating all of that root system. And there's all kind of habitat that live in those water hyacinths. But when it gets poisoned, everything living in those water hyacinths, if it don't die, it's got to find other habitat. And when they poison, almost every time, just about every time it ever happened to me, when they came poison my water hyacinths when I was crawfishing, I could smash them traps and put them in my boat and go find somewhere else to go fish. Now, y'all shake your head. Every commercial crawfisherman here say the same thing that I'm telling you. We don't like it. Open the natural bayous, the main thoroughfares where everybody navigates and where they want to fish, that's fine. But in those sloughs and them swamps where we fish, we're going to fuss at them guys that come poison our water hyacinth. Brack knows. Them lawyers at Wildlife and Fisheries, we call them on the phone and say, look, keep them out of our crawfish traps. Don't bring that poison on us.
Do they stay out?
Yeah, because if they don't, we got some lawyers we know. So we buy licenses to catch crawfish in this state to make a living. You
Well, I
follow what
don't
I'm
blame
saying? I pay him to make a living, so I don't want him poisoning my living.
No, I don't blame you.
I got a good lawyer that he understands how I feel about that.
That's why I can't understand why
I just
EPA,
want y'all to know how we feel about that.
well, I don't blame you, but that's why I can't
Look,
understand why
when them
EPA
crawfish
would
in
approve
the
it.
water hyacinths and they feed them in the root, that bass and that sucker lake is coming and he's grabbing it, and then birds are walking on top and they grabbing it. You understand what I'm telling you? Mm-hmm. I see that. I've been seeing that. I'm 57 years old. I've been seeing that for a long time.
Let's see.
The only comment I'll make on that is eradication is impossible. We can't possibly get rid of it all. We don't want to hit the sloughs where you're crawfishing at. We just try to keep the main waterways open. That's because there's no way. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough contracted groups. Eradication is impossible from multiple perspectives. So we're not going to try to bother where people like the plants.
So, I can tell you, even as a sports fisherman, for sockeye fishing, you find a good patch of lilies that are good and you pick them up and you shake and you got a few of them little small snails and shrimp in there, and you get some sockeye in that area too. So I understand it's about controlling and trying to just manage the lake and everything. I think we had some good questions and all. Just a few questions that somebody had wrote down, and actually if we could answer a few of these for them.
Sure.
I'm gonna just go through them. Some of them I can answer for them. Who are the locks for? Locks belong to St. Martin Parish. It's just, the Corps of Engineers built them. We took them over, we maintain them. Who controls the locks opening and closing? The controlling, the opening and closing on the locks is by Wildlife and Fisheries, their recommendation on what to do. We are not specialists in wildlife and fisheries by any means, so we rely on them to give their advice on when it should be open, when it should be closed. Drainage flood control. Who pays for locks drainage flood control? Parish government. That we just spent over $1 million, some money we had left over from project previously to update the locks and get them to where they're inoperable, to where we can open and close them to maintain the water levels. How can you have fish come in when the locks are closed? So that question was asked already in a meeting that I was in when Brack answered this question before, and you might want to comment on this. So a lot of this right here is a concern, and I've had quite a few people ask me this. When the locks are closed, how can the fish migrate back up? Because fish migrate back upstream. So when the locks are closed, how can we get the fish to migrate back in? A lot of people say when the river's higher than the locks, we should always have the locks open to be able to let the fish come in and out. But I think from studies that you have made comments before, that the population of fish coming in, that migrate in, there's enough fish or something inside. You want to kind of just touch on that, Brad?
Certainly. So when the Chapelai River gets higher than 9 feet, water's going to start backflowing into the lake. The fish can swim over the control structure at that point. Game species like bass and crappie don't migrate like that. That's not how they do. They'll move if there's bad water and they need to get somewhere better to survive. But they will typically stay within 100 yards of the same place their entire life. Bass and crappie don't migrate. There are migratory game species like striped bass and things like that. But for the most part, the only thing that we could get from the Chapelai River would be some schools of shad migrating in that might come with water flow like that. Unfortunately, you're going to get more silver carp that come in with that too, though. And if you go to that control structure and look at when the water is flowing heavy and spilling over through the carp are jumping everywhere. So that's an unfortunate thing, is when the structure is overtopped by river water. Any species of fish can swim in, but really the only migratory ones that are going to come in are silver carp and shad. We had this conversation with Jason and Mr. Huval with Huval Associates in Engineering that worked on the control structure. We were trying to come up with a more detailed plan, and we pretty much said if the river is rising and backflowing in, you could have the structure wide open. It really won't. It's not going to hurt anything. Our biggest concern was from St. Martin Parish's perspective of the integrity of that structure. You don't want to put too much hydraulic pressure on it at any point, and so we were just saying, from a fish migratory perspective, there's a good shad population in the lake already, and so there's not really going to be that much benefit from migrating fish species than the fish that are already there. And in some years, you're talking about, like Jody said, the Chapelai River got to 13 feet this year. Some years we do see 18. Maybe it was last year that 18 feet at Butte La Rose. When you're 18 feet, there's a lot of water that's coming over the top of that structure, and fish can easily pass through there. So it's and the reason that we would recommend not just keeping it open all the time is that when you do get into situations where it starts dropping too fast, and if it happens on a weekend, you could start having fish dying before somebody can get out there on Monday, and that was kind of what the case was. We just barely missed that this past time when Jason and them opened it to try to drain floodwater out. But
Okay, and one of the other questions that was asked was, why don't we go lower than the 6-foot mark or whatever? And that was answered earlier. Indian Bayou area, Corps Engineers owns that property. There's an Indian burial ground there. Their concern is that if it gets the burial grounds become exposed, that people would go in there and, go through the artifacts of the buried stuff. So we have to maintain a certain level of water. I think we've been keeping it pretty much around 7 foot the last drawdown we had, and it worked out good. It works for everybody else. So, it's kind of a bad situation because we dealing with 31 inches of rain this year. We had a lot of water come through. A lot of hyacinth that was trapped between the high power lines and the Grimmie Canal and all that stuff got loosened up, moved in, came in, the runoff from the farmers and the fields and everything else. Jody's right, we don't get good water coming in. The only time we ever get good water that comes in is if we're passing water that's coming through Tesh Vermilion to where we get water to where in case we see a fish kill. Donaldson has always been good for us. He's always worked with the Corps to open up the gates to allow fresh water to come in as we drain some time to kind of break off that bad water and the good water. So I guess it's just something that we're gonna have to live with the rest of our life. I think wildlife fish is doing the best they can. Like I said, if you got a heart attack, don't call us. We're not heart surgeons. When it comes to wildlife and fisheries, I mean, we all sit up here and we all try to make the best decisions that we can for the people in the community and for our parish. But we got to depend on them for the expertise and all. We also do reach out to our commercial fishermen. When we relay messages to UBRAC and everything. I know, like between me and Jason and like Mayor Sherman Collette and Jody and all these guys and the commercial fishermen, they'll keep us up to date on what's going on. They're pretty much our biologists out on the water. That's every day. So I think it's a group. It takes everybody to make this thing work, and I think we're working on it. I think we just hit a really bad year this year, and we seen the effects of how bad it is. I think what we have right now is the lake is going to clear up. Everything's going to get better. Hopefully, we can get the lake into a shape to where we don't have to have these drawdowns every year, where we can keep our landings open. Mr. Kirk, I use your boat landing, and I understand when it's dry. It gets. I can walk to the boulevard from your place sometimes, so I understand where you're coming from, and I can, I know the effects it has on your businesses and the people that have households there. So. I think we just need to all be patient and just try to work the best we can. Everybody's working for the betterment of the lake. I think we're heading in the right direction. We just need to keep doing what we're doing. So, any other questions, Mr. Louvier?
Yeah, I appreciate the input from the audience and from you, Mr. Breck. And I think it's great. This is like one of the best meetings we had with input from everybody on Henderson. I mean, of course, if we didn't have a structure in the north or the south, we wouldn't be having a conversation. So it does bring up conversations. It brings up opinions. I would like to see it open in the spring, because if we're going to open it in the fall, let everything leave. I like to see it open in the spring, let everything come in. I think it's just going to be better overall. That's just my opinion. As long as the water's rising, I think it'd be great to have it open. But like I said, it's just all of our opinions, and it's because we have structures, so we have opinions. But that would be my deal. Let all the natural stuff come back, because I know that the fish leave because we catch them further down. When it's open, the bass and Catahoula, not normally I don't have a lot of fish there, so it does get multiple in that area without giving up on my fishing spots. But anyhow, so that's my 2 cents on it. So I appreciate everybody.
Yes, sir.
And just some food for thought too, until this year, until the recent reconstruction, I guess you'd call it, of the gates, we weren't able to open and close them gates like we wanted either. So now they're operable, they're working. So from here on out, working with wildlife and fisheries, you can open and close them now better than we were before. So we shouldn't have some issues when when wildlife and fisheries calls and says, listen, it can be a good time to open them up. Well, now we can open them and close them. We don't have to get an excavator out there and start pulling on them and all that stuff. So I think we're in a better position there.
Oh, and one more, I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing real quick? The locks, as far as I know, whoever wants to chime in, they're the same exact height as they were before we worked on them. There was a question in the back earlier.
Yeah.
The locks did not change height. They're the same height. Looks different, but they're the same height they've always been.
Right. And if I could clarify one comment that Mr. Chris made earlier, it was a question from somebody in the back. St. Martin Parish owns and operates the control structure. So if it's opened or if it's closed for boat passage or anything, St. Martin Parish is the one that operates that. We just recommend. Wildlife and Fisheries does not have any operation of the structure whatsoever. That's these guys. All we do is make a recommendation of having a drawdown because it's what's the best environmental thing for the lake, and that's the reason that we do. So I'm not trying to correct you. I just Want to make sure nobody.
I'm good. Mr. Delcom.
I was approached by a few individuals that work on the lake and so forth. Mr. Kern had raised an area that initially it wasn't supposed to be every year. You know, it was supposed to be intermittent, you know, and the question that was brought to me was, you know, what is, you can say, oh yeah, it was good this year, or it's bad this year. That's some pretty broad words, subjective words almost.
Sure.
You know, is there any way that we can, it's measurable? Well, when would the individuals that it's affecting somewhat know, well, it's been a bad year? And then you brought up the point, sometimes you can't, the drawdown doesn't work because of natural conditions that you have no control over. So you missed that year. So pretty much next year, we're gonna have to look at it again, you know, but is there any way that what you're looking at is measurable, that individuals can, or you can relay to the individuals that it's affecting, hey, look, we think we might not need it this year. Or, you know, we had a bad year last year due to conditions. We're going to have to do it to give these individuals a little heads up as to your position on opening and closing and drawdowns. So.
Sure, yes, sir, certainly. I think the biggest measurable that we would look at is the volume of aquatic plants that are in the lake. In the case of this year, it was crazy. It was very, very bad. So we would strongly recommend having a drawdown. But I do very much sympathize with Mr. Jake and his situation. And there's people in Atchafalaya Acres that don't want us to have it every year. They have a pontoon boat and they like to get out. And so there's recreational, there's all different aspects of why people don't want us to have a drawdown every year. And so, and I'd already spoken with my counterpart, Ryan, back there, that next year we may try this again. We may go in as early as we can, not spraying in the areas with crawfish or the areas that are being crawfished, but keeping those main boat lanes open. And if we see that as a measure of success, that we've got the aquatic vegetation under control by summertime when the main growing season is, like I said earlier, we would be fine with not having a drawdown next year. I do believe this year it would be in the best interest of the lake, with both the bad water quality and the volume, the overabundance of aquatic plants that we do it this year. But if we can get control of it next year, certainly,
And I understand that with the heat and so forth, this is what acclimates and makes it come in. But at some point in time, is there a time when, you know what, come April, come May, we pretty much had to give these individuals a little heads up? Hey, look, it's going to be a bad year. Or you know what, we may be able to, just to give the individuals that make a living, that we can kind of take a look at it, you know. And also in regards when we were actually doing the reconstruction of the facility, I had talked with Mr. Jason, and as we are not experts in this, and is there some correlation with the river? And let's just say historically, we know when the river gets to X or whatever, it's on a rise, it's coming down. We can anticipate maybe opening it more, or, you know, to be able to give the crawfishermen a little bit more water down in Cocodrie and, you know, where they need it, and get some flushing, or moving it a little bit to where we're just sitting back and we're waiting again for the expertise of wildlife and fisheries, or the expertise of Mr. Sherbin, or the expertise, you know, I'm getting calls from the crawfishermen. And of course, you're going to get different views from a bunch of different areas, but is there any correlation to the river and to the rise and fall that we can pretty much say, hey, look, when it gets to X, historically, we can normally, you know, open it up, or we need to close it, or, you know, that way we're not just sitting back. We can kind of anticipate, and then we can make some phone calls to the crawfishermen, or we can make some phone calls to Mr. Sherbin, or to the individuals that live on the lake and live in the woods, that can kind of, you know, give us a little direction on that, or from you, you know, just a little bit of proactivity that possibly the people that make the living on the, in regards to the hydrilla and the drawdowns and/or in regards to the opening and closing and the water levels. Just a little heads up to give St. Martin Parish government a little help in making the decisions.
I'm all for the if we can improve and increase our communication, absolutely would be all for that. Mr. Chris has got my office number. I think Jody's got my office number. Mayor Sherburne, I talk to him from time to time. I would just say we all just stay in definite communication with each other, and if we see that we're getting a good hold on the lake next year, I'll be happy to relay that information that, hey, it looks like we've got it this year, and we would like to follow up on that request to not have a drawdown. And so if we see that by May or June, we should be getting a good idea at that point. Sometimes the river is still, high into June, and so you might still be talking about 13 feet of water in the lake, and it's hard to get a real good read on what it's going to do until you hit pool stage of 9 feet. But we as a department have to consider all of these. We can't just look at the wildlife and fishery benefits. We have to look at economic. We have to look at the socioeconomic. So I understand all of this stuff, and there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different mindsets on it. And so if it would benefit,
So just a little communication
Yes, sir.
amongst everybody that it affects.
Yes, sir. And I had my email and my office number up there. Anybody's welcome to call me at any point, and I'd be happy to talk about the lake, talk about fishing, try to tell you where to go, where don't go for sure. I'm happy to answer, talk with anybody anytime.
Brack, something that we could maybe do next year, like in the beginning of spring and all that, maybe in the early part of the year. If you'd want, I'm sure Jody could, and the town of Henderson would allow us to use the multi-purpose building that's in Henderson. We could just advertise and let people know, the fishermen, commercial fishermen, where we could have kind of like a little workshop where we could meet one evening.
Sure.
Where you come in and just tell us where the lake's at right now, what to expect and what we're doing and what we're looking at. Now that can change because I can tell you, we didn't have many, the lake was in really good shape up until we caught those floodwaters.
Right.
Until the floodwaters, we were looking really good. I didn't think we
Yes.
were gonna have a drawdown. So, but we can kind of just maybe have a communications to where we kind of talk and just inform everybody and let us know what we're doing. So I'd be willing to get with you if you're fine with that.
Oh, yes,
and,
sir.
we'll get with Jordan and I'm sure Sherman won't have a problem, and then the town won't have a problem with using the building. And we can meet there in Henderson in, I don't know, maybe like March, April, sometimes early in the year, kind of see where we at, and then maybe have another one like 60 days later to kind of going into the drawdown or preparing for the drawdown, if we're gonna have to have a drawdown or not. And we just keep the public informed.
Sure.
It would help, people like Mr. Kern and stuff to kind of prepare for what's getting ready to come. And we can get a forecast on what we have going on.
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
We can do that. That's not a problem. I got one more person who wants to come, Mr. Berard.
Good, man.
Good.
My name is Jacob Bayrard. I'm a resident of the parish and grew up, hunting since I was little, fishing. Not too big into fishing these days. I work most of the time, but I'm real big into duck hunting. And something that's bothered me the most is since I was a kid, first time ever duck hunting was Mr. Richard Robin. He passed away. This man instilled that in me. We'd get to the levee, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all you heard was ducks. In the sky, get to the blind, we always jump birds out decoys. Every single hunt. Now, this was late 90s, early 2000s. We know that was the year that had the most, numbers as far as breeding. It was also one of the mildest winters Louisiana's ever had, nationwide. So, a lot of people always want to know, why doesn't Louisiana have the ducks anymore? That was also at the same time whenever there was a lot more private lands. And something that I'm starting to see is whenever these lands were owned privately, the members of the leases were better stewardess of the land. They were taking care of the land better than whenever government took over. So a lot of this land was donated. Now it's government entities taking care of it. But from what I witnessed today is the main issue is money, is what it seems like. Who's paying for what? So it seems like since I started hunting and I was experiencing all these great things and then there's decline, every year I have to go to fill that empty void of a good season. I got to go out of state and go hunt, go pay thousands of dollars. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So the real problem, from what it seems, is we need more money in order to take care of the land better. The other thing I'm seeing is we're spraying lilies, we're spraying vegetation that floats and moves. So there's no way to actually track what you're doing other than you seeing new stuff coming in. So you're on the bottom end of the lake. Water comes in just like it did. We had this 30-inch rain, a record rain. All this comes through and everything comes from north to south. So I agree with the drawdown. I'm not going to say I'm totally against it. You know, I agree that it's helped with hydrilla. When we had hydrilla, we killed ducks. When we had hydrilla, we caught fish. But I understand that it is a problem too. So the drawdown works with the hydrilla, but the problem is there's no way, like I work in the farming industry. So I deal with equipment with GPS tracking, with spraying fields with chemicals. Wherever they spray, they paint a field. You know where not to spray again. And I understand you want to spray in April or whenever at the growing season. A lot of people don't understand a lot of things he said this year about the heat. The cane, look at the cane this year, how tall. It's the same thing with the floton, with the hydrilla, everything is gonna grow. This is a super good growing year. But if we're gonna drain it every year, once all this vegetation in the woods, there's still potholes holding water and this shit's still growing. That's the stuff we need to be killing. But it's like, apparently we don't have enough money to do that. How do we get to the point where if we drain this basin for 3 months, how do we get the funding to get agents or contractors in the woods to spray these flotons, to spray whatever you want? Because if you spray and you kill it there, it's on the ground. That's where you want to kill it, not in the floating water. You want to be able to control where you spray and actually document it, you know? So like, if the issue is we don't have the money to take care of it the proper way. So in other words, we don't have the ducks because we don't have the habitat. We don't have the feed. We have flotons. We can't get through the woods. You know, it takes a cold push of weather for us to kill birds, and it's all passing birds. You know, I still get this sensation whenever I go to White Lake. I got some buddies, you know, the Cajun chef people. I'll go with them in the mornings. I could hear the birds before daylight. I asked some questions on the Facebook page because there was a lot of people that was really passionate about this on social media. But what I wanted to know is just like Mr. Boz, Mr. Jody, all the crawfishermen, I want the experienced men, not the educated, not talking about you. I know you're educated. I'm talking about the people who's been seeing it from the young age, 50 years. I want those guys to say, okay, basically, in the 80s, we killed ducks, we caught fish, we caught crawfish. I asked somebody, in the last 20 years, how much crawfish was caught in Henderson? Somebody said 1 good year. Okay, what about ducks? Ducks has been trash. A lot of people, you know, especially us Cajuns, we want to kill mallards. Louisiana doesn't have the mallards anymore. Can't blame it on the weather, it's not the weather. You know, back in the late 90s, they passed this law to allow legal baiting. You could call it what you want. You're flooding cornfields. Corn is not, you cannot flood corn for any practical harvesting methods. You're creating habitat with corn. You can't compare it to rice because you can't walk through rice. That's green rice, you can't walk through it, you can't swim through it. Corn, you can walk through cornfields. You flood corn, you could swim. A human can swim through a cornfield. A duck is going to have structure. They're going to have basically habitat. You're going to have feed. Okay, so we understand there's no way to get around that right now. Louisiana is not going to get the mallards, okay? But when we get cold weather, we get mallards. So in other words, how do we have good duck seasons at least? Well, let's bring some ducks in that we can get. things that I would like to put into place, get the right people in place, is how do we bring habitat back to an area that has basically not been taken care of since the owners were private and now it's a public government entity. It's great now the public can hunt it, but it's not taken care of. When the private people had it, it was taken care of. Just like you get somebody in a deer lease, they go and they take care of their piece of land, everything is theirs. You know, they get the deer, all this stuff. The ducks, on the other hand, we don't have that. How, you know, and basically, it seems like the problem is the money. How do we get more money to do what we need to do to bring back the habitat? That's the big problem, you know? So I would not be opposed of working with, you know, Indian Bayou Reserve to say, okay, let's come up with a game plan, a 10-year game plan. How much money can somebody in your division or hire somebody to come up with a game plan? What it's going to cost to actually clean this basin up to where it needs to be? Start with the problem. The problem's in the woods. Get rid of the shit in the woods. When the water's drained, you know, to where we can grow the habitat back. Plant feed trees, plant oak trees, acorn trees. You know, figure out ways to actually put feed trees back, put good vegetation back, something that's not so invasive. But how do we get the money? Fundraiser events, start charging basically to be in a lease for Indian Bayou Reserve. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to paying $300 a year. Look, people have $35,000 in a boat these days just to go hunt public land, to not pay $3,000 to hunt in a rice field. You know what I mean? So, and these guys are wearing $10 to $1,500 worth of Sitka clothes, you know? People are invested in duck hunting. And a lot of people like to hunt public land because of the challenge. Me personally, you know, I have farmers all across the southern state I could go hunt ducks with in rice fields. I don't like to. I don't like the look. I don't like the view. I like to hunt in the basin. I like to hunt the cypress. So I would like to basically solve the real problem is the money. Figure out ways to get more money in to take care of the real problem rather than who's paying for what, what's the cheapest way to do it. Just fix their problem and get the money. So like, who can I get in touch with to start an organization for, like, because you know where this is stemming from? I went to the Chaffalay Basin Delta Waterfowl Banquet. Okay. And after talking with the little guy over there, basically, I wanted to know, we're going to raise $100,000. Where's this money going to? 80% is going to Delta. And I said, what do y'all spend the money on? Well, the Prairie Pothole region. We're going to see about growing duck numbers. Okay. Good. Okay. What about the other 20%? Well, it's going to go probably to the wildlife and fisheries. Okay. So it's for the Chaffalaya Basin Delta, our area. This is where I want to be. I don't want to go to Lubbock, Texas. I don't want to go to Gaydon. I want to hunt in Henderson. So how do we make this better? Do we start our own chapter to raise money? Do we get with Indian Bayou Game Reserve and start charging more money and then actually publish real transparency to where we can see, you know, where the money's going, who's in control of the money, and have committees to where we make decisions, to where we can actually fix the problem, the real problem, get the money and fix it the right way. When the water's drained, that's when you get in there with Argo, spray the stuff, paint the areas. Start from the north, work your way south. Because I feel like we always just, I see the guys in Pale Bay spraying or wherever. All that shit is gonna keep coming. I mean, you're not fixing the problem. You're just putting a Band-Aid on it. You make it, in my opinion, it looks more like I'm trying to satisfy people showing that I'm doing something. I'm really not doing a fucking thing. I'm sorry for that. Honestly,
Yeah, so I think we kind of getting off a script right here. You know, I understand where you come from. Listen, I've been hunting and fishing in the Basin, especially the Anderson area all my life. I started off hunting with David Cormier and Harold De La Hussein, those guys. And we had a lease in Ted Lavache. Taylor Corps Engineers came there and bought it out. And they look, it's not a hunting game preserve to where they're not looking to cut any deals and not looking to lease any land. we found out because they told us pack up and get out. We had to move.
Yeah.
So I know where you're coming from. I understand what you're doing, where you're going with it. It's a good idea. I think we get a little off subject on the drawdown and stuff, but we appreciate what your concerns are. Listen, I used to be a member of Ducks Unlimited for years. I realized that the money wasn't staying here. I support local projects, local groups. I think we have a better chance with that. So I do commend you on your efforts for that.
So how would,
ideas.
in other words, I came here to hear about all this other stuff.
Right.
But more to meet him, because I really am passionate about this, and I could build a business my whole life and it don't matter. I feel like if I would do something good for the people, I'd rather have that to hang my hat on before I
Right.
die than worry about building a good business.
A good idea was we talking about maybe putting together a little early meeting to meet and stuff. We'll definitely give us your contact information here. We'll make sure we call you and get you involved. It's a good idea to bring it up to the public at one of those meetings and see maybe there's more people that's interested in doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Look, I'm all for it. I'm all for trying to, like I said,
We gotta bring money in.
150 days all my life.
It's all about who's paying for what. Everything I listen to this whole meeting.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
All money driven.
100%. So if we can grow some money, then we can maybe do some good things and get back to being able to hunt public land now, but hunt it like as if it was ran by private. I guess that would be my main goal for it, bring ducks back to Louisiana. Sure. If you increase the habitat, you're gonna bring ducks back, whether we got corn or not, That's kind of what my hope is. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander, you got another question?
Yes, sir, I got one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the gentleman over there asked you a question, but you didn't answer it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna ask you the question, same
Okay.
one he asked you. Why, who determines, is it the Department of Wildlife and Fishery that make a recommendation on the lake drawdown? Or he said he wanna know why it's taking 4 or 5 months for the drawdown?
5 weeks, Mr. Alexander. I misstated. I said months, but 5 weeks.
Oh, months, I said, did I?
When the river came to its last rise peak,
Uh-huh,
about 5 weeks ago, it started falling out. So Henderson should have fell out with it. You follow what I'm saying?
right.
The gate, I feel, should have been open 5 weeks ago.
Oh, it's 5 weeks, I thought it was 5 months.
I misstated, 5 weeks. I thought the rest was correct.
Yeah, we good. All right, Mr. Brack.
Who makes makes the recommendation on when they're gonna do the drawdown, lake drawdown?
Okay, so the recommendation comes from Wildlife and Fisheries.
Okay.
That's the recommendation for the drawdown. But we also have had comments in the past, please don't do it before July 4th, the July 4th weekend recreation on the lake. It's a lot of, it's an economic driver. People spending money on gas and getting fishing line. So the recommendation is on our part. That's why one of the reasons we've typically always chosen August 1st. But in this case here, we're past August 1st, but the water quality in that lake is so bad right now. And it has been bad since the beginning, basically ever since all that flood water came in. The water quality has been exceptionally bad. And it's been my concern that if we remove water too fast, it will result in a fish kill. And we almost had that at one point, and that's when Mr. Chris and I talked and Jason talked, and we closed the control structure to try to slow the water down. Because if it drains too fast, it will kill fish. It happens. It's happened multiple times in the past, and it will happen again at some point. It's unfortunately it's unavoidable at certain times, certain scenarios. But to try to answer your question, it's our recommendation that we would normally start on August 1st, but in this case, we're waiting until we were able to come to present this to the council. But also the water in that lake is of such poor quality right now that we are trying to basically let it drain as slow as possible until we get to closer to 9 feet and then open up the structure and get that bad water out. Does that answer you? Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brock. We
I
appreciate you.
appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
All right.
2 days later.
Item 2, discussion on ordinance summary number 1556 OR, an ordinance providing for an amendment to the year 2026 operating and maintenance budget for for the Health Unit Maintenance Fund, Fund Number 251, Animal Control.
You good? Any discussion? Yeah, moves.
Item 3, discussion on ordinance summary number 1557 OR, an ordinance providing for the lease of one 2026 Caterpillar 308-08 hydraulic excavator.
Any discussion? No, I think it's a replacement on a previous.
I got you.
We have.
Okay.
Item 4, discussion on ordinance summary number 1558 OR, an ordinance reducing the extent of the servitude rights of St. Martin Parish government from 100 feet to 30 feet on the western side of that certain drainage channel designated as M-1, where it borders parcel number 17002B 4752.
Ms. Allen was not here. Any discussions, any questions about it? No?
Item 5, discussion on ordinance summary number 1559 OR, an ordinance creating the position of Assistant to the Director of Administration, adding that position to the St. Martin Parish pay schedule and organizational chart, and assigning the position to pay range 10.
Any discussion?
Item 6, consider the adoption of an ordinance amending the travel expense reimbursement policy for the St. Martin Parish Council to reflect the meals and incidental expenses, MI&E rates, as designated annually by the U.S. General Services Administration.
Any discussions?
Item 7, discussion of resolution number 26-053 or S, authorizing Parish President Pete Delcom to enter into an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of St. Martin Parish government with the St. Mary Levy District to share in the costs and obligations associated with the operation and maintenance, repair, rehabilitation, and replacement of the Bayou Chien flood protection structure adopted on January 2nd, 2026.
I'd asked Mr. Durio to reach out to their attorney. You want to give us an update on where we at, Mr. Durio?
Yeah, right before the meeting, I spoke with Mr. Bill Bourgeois, who was here at the last meeting, just to feel him out on what we could do to move it forward. So we had a short discussion. They're adamant at this point they want the first intergovernmental agreement, but they were open to providing any information the council needed. So I told them I'd follow up tomorrow after the meeting, if anything changed tonight with you guys.
So basically, we passed a resolution where we agreed upon, that we had previously discussed, where we'd pay on the front side, but we weren't willing to pay on the back side. The resolution was passed, unless anybody's changed their mind on the resolution we have. After hearing them speak the last meeting, I mean, basically that's what we had. If we want to repeal the discussion, or we want to just allow, maybe we need to speak more with their attorney and see if we can come to an agreement between what we have, what we offered, and what they're asking for. Mr. Delcom?
Yeah, so June 2nd, what was the signing of the resolution, and their initial intergovernmental agreement, of course, it had the problem that I had with it, and that the council had with it, is that there was a back-end clause in which, in the event any additional monies were needed to do any structural repair, we would be liable for 15%. And this is 10 years from now. A lot can happen. I did not feel comfortable in contracting something of that nature, you know, an open-ended dollar sign. And I would think that it would have been prudent that all other areas of grants legislators, Baton Rouge, as it does affect 5 parishes, I think that we would have enough clout to be able to stir the water and make something happen before coming to the individual parishes for whatever increments they were contracted to. The levy board came in at the last meeting, and they gave their presentation, and they were still adamant that they were not in agreement with the intergovernmental that we had set up, in which we understand that it works. We understand that we need to pay our fair share. We understand that a commitment would be better than none. So I think we had agreed, we give the $75,000 per year and commit to that for 10 years, to where the people of Stevensville know that we're in this for them, that it does work, and we're going to commit our monies, parish monies, their tax monies, to make this thing happen. I would think that being that they have not come up, the St. Mary Levy District has not come up with any feasible compromise, as you did give me the ability to sign it and to send it to them for approval on their part, I would like to run that through. I can sign it tomorrow, send it to the St. Mary Levy Board. They know that we mean business, that we're not going to agree to the back end clause. We will agree to the front end and make a commitment of $75,000 a year for 10 years. I think if both of us giving a little bit, we should be able to come to the table with a compromise for the good of the people of not only St. Martin Parish, but all of the parishes. I think in hand, they will have to make a decision, whether if they decide not to agree to it, well, you know what? We had discussed it, and I think we will still make the $75,000 commitment per year, but with no contract. And again, if they're adamant that there will be no agreement unless we come in with the back end clause, well, it is what it is. But I feel that our commitment to Stevensville and Bell River should be accomplished, and we should be able to get into that. So that's my position. I say we continue. We have the resolution. It was passed unanimously. There was one absent. Ms. Narcisse was absent, but everybody passed it unanimously. So I suggest that I get it signed, I send it to them, and then we wait and see if they have a rebuttal, or if they sign it, hey, look, we put it to bed, and we have a contractual agreement with the levy board for 10 years. That's my suggestion.
So the agreement would exclude the unlimited pay insofar as repairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, so what happens if we sign it and they won't sign it and won't accept it, we can't just continue to pay them. So what would happen at that point?
We would have to, when it gets to that, we have to have some kind of contractual agreement with St. Mary Levy Board. Okay. And I think, they would be, in error if, hey, look, we're agreeing to the money. We need to have some kind of agreement. That would be Mr. Durio's ballpark. But I would think, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
We're all in agreement with our commitment. We're all in agreement. The control structure works. They did put it into practice, and it does work. So we're not trying to shirk our responsibility.
Right.
We just want to make sure that we're not committing to an open-ended backdraft on the original IGA.
Would it even be feasible for, like you said earlier, in the intergovernmental agreement, where we ask that all optional revenues be considered like grants and donation?
I think we need that in the resolution.
And
That's all.
And then,
I'm sorry.
and then with that being said, that there would be no agreement until we get a dollar amount, whether we would want to participate?
Yeah, so the way that the resolution that y'all passed, that was the intergovernmental agreement I prepared. It's blanket. Y'all agreeing to pay 75,000, pretty much on a year-by-year basis. The parish president's gonna keep paying it unless y'all say stop. So we didn't agree to a term limit, said year by year, we're gonna take it and decide if we're gonna pay the 75,000. And again, if they don't sign it, y'all don't pay it. Because if y'all gonna give government money to another government entity, we need a fully signed agreement. And we don't wanna pay it without an agreement, because we don't wanna set that precedent either.
Right.
That we paid it, why'd y'all pay it if y'all didn't agree to it? So ours was very blanket, 75,000, that's it, and it's a year by year type situation.
Okay.
Mr. Alexander?
I don't want to just reiterate what Mr. Dalcom just said, but according to this resolution, a motion was made by Mr. Kerr Malonzo and then second by Mr. Hart Louvier. Resolution number 26-053-RS, and is mostly to protect the Bayou-Chenier, Stephenville area, protect them from flooding. And according to this right here resolution, we all sign or said yes to it. Tangent Ortiz was excused, but everybody else voted yes. You know what I'm saying? Which you all know that already. That's why I don't want to just reiterate, excuse my Creole, sometimes I don't pronounce it right. But the resolution was declared adopted on the second day of June 2026. And you all know that already, so I suggest that we do everything we can to protect them over there, keep them from flooding. Whatever it's gonna take, we should do our part to keep that area from flooding, because it's, you know where I'm coming from.
Yep.
So that's all I got to say.
Mr. Louvier?
A 10-year thing instead of year by year?
Yeah, that's in our.
Oh, it's in that thing already, okay. No questions.
No question?
I was just trying to clear up the deal with the 10-year agreement.
Okay. So basically, we passed the resolution, we voted on it, it's been done. So as parish president, Mr. Delcom has the right to sign it and administer the deal. Now, if they accept it, then we good. If they don't accept it, then we'll see where we go from there. So if you, we passed it, it's unanimous vote, it's been done, so you have that authority to go ahead and sign off on it if that's what you want to do,
Put it in process tomorrow.
right?
Item 8, consider the adoption of a resolution requesting financial assistance from the state of Louisiana under the fiscal year 2026-2027 Local Government Assistance Program and Community Water Enrichment Fund Program.
This is something that we do annually.
Item 9, consider the adoption of a resolution proclaiming the week of October 4th through 10th, 2026 as Fire Prevention Week.
This is also something that we do annually. I want to take this time to recognize our acting fire chief right now, Mr. David. Just thank you for your service. We appreciate everything you do for our parish. You and also all the volunteers and everybody else that makes our Fire Prevention Week so important to make sure we have safety for the constituents of St. Martin Parish. So thank you for everything you do.
Item 10, consider the adoption of a resolution proclaiming the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
This is something that we do annually.
Item 11, consider the adoption of a resolution proclaiming the month of October as Head Start Awareness Month.
This is also something that's done annually.
Item 12, consider appointments, reappointments to various committees.
That should have been emailed out to everyone.
Item 13, Parish President's Report.
Mr. Delcom?
So you have in front of you the different projects that we're currently undertaking. Cypress Bayou, Corps of Engineers pending. Alcide Bonham, Corps of Engineers pending. Petroleum Parkway, we are well into Petroleum Parkway. Things are moving. We had a couple of hiccups. There was a box culvert. There was a line that was hit that was unidentified. However, for the most part, we are moving along with the project, and we may be a little bit ahead of schedule, but of course, we still have almost a year left in this thing, and we'll that'll be determined after the first quarter of next year. I think we can get a better grip as to time schedules of this thing. Ms. Carter, you have any questions about, as this is a project in your?
No, just a comment. I was visiting with an individual to take care of some personal business for him, and some of their employees didn't realize who I was, and they were talking about the project. So I kind of reiterated pretty much what you said, that the drainage should help out with some of the flooding. The roadway will be, a lot better insofar as the traffic with heavy equipment. And then I know they made some consensus for easy accessing for some of the businesses that was there. So it is a little rough, but I mean, at the end, the first part that they've done, it looks real, real good.
Sales tax one road improvements, as we had said before, and as the contractor had reiterated, it looked like they were behind, but when you put all of the rain days and all of the delays and so forth that could be put into the project, they would be completed by the end of August. We now have 3 roads left in the lower part in the St. Martinville area that are in process. And all of the roads should be completed within the contract time of the end of August. Detour Road, Catahoula, Kool-Aid, of course, that has been reopened. We were able to clean off Miss Sis Bonaz's driveway, and we're in the process of reseeding that. So that project is almost complete. The Catahoula Road, if you've been Highway 96, if you've been down there, they started at the Ville, and they are moving. They are probably about at Highway 679, Dakota Holmes Highway. They are projected to complete prior to grinding. We'll see. They are moving along with the project. Water consolidation, well number 1 had been completed. Well number 2, they're in the process of completing. The well number 3, they're in the process of casing in the well. That is coming along good. They're in the process of tying in the water lines, the source lines from the well back to Aubrey-Ozanne Road. They have put down the conduit. They ran the 3-phase on Aubrey-Ozanne and ready to run the 3-phase through the conduit when that is going to be ready. So they are moving along with the projects. There was a water sector meeting last Wednesday, and we were well within our requirements of course, we were all along, we had to have certain percentages of the projects completed prior to September 1st, and we were able to come in under the deadline on all of the projects. So the monies that the Water Sector Board will be dispensing to us are secured. We should be able to complete the projects and get this thing flipped. We're hoping by the end of the fourth quarter, December 31st. That is still a work in progress, but we're working towards that, and we should be able to do that. The jail roof, they have begun the scaffolding and getting mobed up to be able to start the jail roof. Jail sewage, we had a budget for a proactive sewer line, $11,000 to $15,000. We have worked that. The city of St. Martinville lift station, there was a sizable amount of problems that the city had, and basically caused by the debris that comes out of the jail. And sheriff was approached. He was not amenable to easing our pain, as it was something that is directly caused by the jail. And as we are the overseers of the jail, I sat down with the mayor. It was, he had a $128,000 bill. I felt comfortable that we were, in fact, I think we were very generous in putting up $50,000 of his bill to make that work. We are in the process of designing a catch basin that the problems with the debris that's being put into the sewer line is going to be taken care of. That is just in the budgetary process. Nothing has been determined. Locations have not been determined. We're looking at a lot of our options, but that's still out all in the open. Annex office, as you have seen, they have started construction back there. They're actually trying to pour at the end of this week. So we'll see how that comes along. They got all of the plumbing in. I saw they were there today, leveling off everything internally and digging footings. They got to come back in and put in the steel, but they're trying to get concrete into the project at the end of this week. Southbourne, we have building upgrades to the buildings themselves. We replaced the roof. We put gutters. We're going to be doing some internal drainage to get some of that water away from the building. The Ruthbourne, we replaced the roof, or is in the process of replacing the roof and siding. We're looking at sometime during the month of September to complete. Cecilia Civic Center, we are working on the 20 by 20 canopy in the back. The project has started. The drive-through canopy, we are waiting on bids. That had to do, we had to get it signed off with engineering, an engineering stamp, and we're out and waiting on bids on the drive-through canopy. Do you have any questions as to any of the projects?
Mr. Corville, you have a question?
I do, and I apologize for not asking before, but I didn't realize how close we were on the road project, so it might be more for Mr. Jason, but are we kind of in line, Jason, I guess, as we're wrapping this deal up to start looking at the next set? I mean, I know we kind of talked about just kind of carrying on.
Actually, the next set of roads is at the engineering.
Okay.
They were turned in, I want to say April, May. I actually was talking to the engineer earlier. We're getting bore testing for the roads with LA testing. So we're looking at probably another 4 weeks.
Okay.
By the time all the geotechnical reports and bore results are in. So you figure November, last quarter of the year, before we could actually go out around that area, beginning of next year.
How many roads we have left to do right now?
On this road, we have 3.
Left.
They're actually on Lori Lane yesterday and today. Then they're gonna go to Atacapa, and then they have P. Guidry and Catahoula as the last road.
I saw they coming back and they restriping some of the roads.
Yes, it's a different guy, it's a third-party contractor that stripes. So he started, he's bouncing around with the roads, but he has probably 7 or 8 of the roads striped right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're pretty much continuing, and last couple of years, it's been successful into where we get a set of roads done. And if we can, at this, like I said, like Mr. Jason just said, by April, we get a commitment. These roads are given to the engineer. They're in the process of, so that by the third quarter, they've completed that. We can go out to bid, hopefully get contracts signed by the end of the fourth quarter. And at that time, if they can start, if this past year, they were in Stevensville, we were able to get some work done, and then they flipped over first quarter. And then we start the whole process again. We get our listing of roads first quarter. By April, we get commitments from the council and make sure that everything's kosher with the budget and so forth. And then we go back out, do the engineering. So we're able to, on a calendar year, try and flip the whole thing. It's been successful. It's happened again this year, and I don't see any reason why we can't do it next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Alexander, you have a question?
For Mr. Delcom. Mr. Delcom, you report here for road improvements. I believe they're doing some work on Sherwood Road, but I don't see it on this list right here.
Sherwood Road, Mr. Jason may be able to.
Okay. Because they called me, told me they was doing work there.
We're not doing any kind of road improvements. We actually
Is that drainage?
canal. It's drainage.
Just drainage.
We have a drainage canal that goes from Ches Broussard and it goes through Sherwood and it goes back towards Sawmill.
Not a
So
problem. I
we're in
would
the
look at that,
process
but,
of cleaning that
maybe he
canal
told
out.
me you wrote him, he told me
Yes, sir.
improvement, but it's drainage.
They finished burning trees. Probably this weekend they can start digging the canal that goes from Ches Broussard and wraps around Sherwood.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In continuation of the president's report, at the last council meeting, it was brought up in regards to wetlands and our inability, well, the position of St. Martin Parish government's inability to work within the wetlands. And it was brought up, and Mr. Lee Durio, the attorney, was asked to do the research on it and to come up with an opinion, of which he did. And I know at the end of the meeting, it was kind of up in the air as to positions of the parish and some of the questions as to things that may have been done in the past and why we are not going to continue those acts in the future. Mr. Corville, Mr. Chris had brought up, there was a clause that says that we do have the ability to work in these wetland areas. And that is correct. We do have that ability. However, in reading the entirety of the statute, there are some strict parameters in that you need to work within embankment to embankment. Now, our practice of our work with our public works in regards to cleaning these drainage ditches and laterals is to parallel the ditch or the canal with the machine and to clean out the ditch. We do not go into the ditch or the canal itself. We work on the side of that. So again, Corps of Engineers says, we're not telling you that you can't do it, but you have to stay within the parameter of the embankment to embankment. Second thing is that any discharge that's taken out of the canal, the ditch, the whatever, cannot be disposed on the wetlands area outside of the embankment. So what we normally do is we clean it out, we have a servitude, we clean it out, we burn whatever debris, we roll and we flatten out any debris, any spoil that has been done, and then we get on and we move on. In this wetlands area, any debris that's taken out, whether it be spoil or whether it be any vegetation, has to be taken out through the canal. So you would have a machine or a buggy or something in the ditch itself. When the spoil is taken out, it would need to be put on another barge or a buggy or something, and that would be removed from the ditch or from the area of drainage to be disposed somewhere else. Lafayette LCG has done this, and their price tag, in which all things inclusive, is about $1 million a mile. For someone to come in and actually do that type of work in a wetlands area. I just did not think that, my position is if there's an area of wetlands that a watershed is affected to the point where that the watershed is being affected and the people in that area are being affected by floodwaters due to this wetlands area and whatever debris and spoil or anything that may be obstructing the ability to flow. We would need to go to the Corps of Engineers, submit an application. The application process is not a one-page piece of paper. It is very, you need engineering, you need history, you need soil samples. It's probably about a $5,000 to $10,000 commitment to do the application. And then once that goes to the Corps of Engineers, you've seen the Corps of Engineers and the timing it takes for them to process a permit. However, I'm not saying that we cannot look at an area that is affected and the people of the parish are being adversely affected in a watershed area, that we can't take a look at it. But for the parish public works division to go into these wetland areas due to the restrictions, the lawful restrictions, and the Corps of Engineers protocol, that is the reasoning that I have said that we're not going to avail ourselves to this. I really believe that it's the right decision. I hope that in the opinion that you're in agreement with it. If you have any areas that you think may not have been quite to the impression or to your direction that you think is applicable, please, let's talk about it. But I can only go by the law, and actually, Mr. Barbera with the Army Corps of Engineers, where these permits, he's making final decisions, and he came out actually in this opinion, and he gave his direction, which is pretty definitive in the event that we break his protocol. So that being said, that is the position of St. Martin Parish government while I'm here in this seat. I think it is substantiated by case law and by the intervention of the Corps. If anybody would have any disagreement or any questions or anything, I'm open to anything, as is Mr. Durio, who did the opinion. Well, that being said, that's the end of my president's report. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I thought you were done earlier. I didn't mean to cut you.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Item 14, council discussion or comment.
Questions or concerns by the council? District 1? District 2?
I'll just share this. This is not in my district, but just wanted to let everyone know we're getting some positive feedback on the library being built in Parks. Ms. Brew has been doing a phenomenal job along with Mayor Kately with posting pictures, and just to share some of the feedback from the community. The new building looks great. This is so amazing. So excited for the Parks community. Awesome, great job. So the feedback on the progress and the library has been really favorable from the community. That's it.
Okay, District 3 is out. District 4? District 5, I'm good. District 6? District 7?
I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer, okay? Is there a way where the council could meet in Stephenville for a meeting?
For a committee meeting?
Either one. Can we go there and have a meeting there to Stephenville?
Yeah.
Huh?
We've done them in the past, so we did them 1 year during the election year. We went and we did a travel, where we traveled, and the only thing I'd have to, would maybe be a concern is the law has changed to where we have to televise our meetings with.
And notice has to be posted in the building where we're meeting.
Right. So I guess it's something that we could discuss it. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing it. I just, in the past when we did them, we had rules we had to follow, but then the laws kind of changed to it makes it kind of hard for us to be able to go and have meetings outside this facility. I don't know if we can. I don't know. I mean, it's something we can look at and we can discuss at the next meeting if you'd like. Something we can definitely look at. We'd have to look and see, get out, let Brooke do her homework and see if there's something that would be able to be done. But we can look into it.
Okay.
Can we carpool with you? Can we carpool with you?
Well, we can spend the night there if you don't.
Oh, that's getting a little too far.
Set me up. Set me up for the meeting.
Okay, District 8? District 9?
I was gonna say that during the first term, that was brought up, Mr. Vincent, about doing a meeting in Lower St. Martin Parish just so they can get some. I talked to the school board, they did one, And they just said they didn't have voting machines, they did everything manual. It might make more sense to do a committee meeting where we don't have a lot of voting and stuff to do, but I think it'd be a good thing to let people down there kind of see what we do and get to be a part of it, so.
We
I'd
went,
be in full support of that.
yeah, the one that you talking about, me and Mr. Louvier went to Lower St. Martin Parish with the sheriff and for the school board meeting. And they did it to where it was like a committee meeting, kind of. So we definitely can look into it and we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item 15, completed constituents' work order per request forms for July 2026 were emailed to you. Item 16, reports. Statements of revenues and expenditures and balance sheet for July 2026 were also emailed to you.
See? No other business? Meeting is adjourned.
Not yet. We're not done yet.
We have one more. The Board of
Oh, hold up, we
Adjustment.
gotta do a board of adjustment. This meeting is adjourned.
It's been a while.
No, we good. You ready? The St. Martin Parish Council Board of Adjustment meeting of Tuesday, August 18, 2026 at 6:40 is now called to order.
Item 1, council to meet as a Board of Adjustment to consider granting an exception to Mason Durio to move a single-family mobile home on property zoned I-1 Light Industrial located at 1991 Main Highway, Orneville, District 9.
I need a motion and a second to grant the exception. I have a motion by Mr. Corville, second by Mr. Louvier. Call for the vote.
Council to meet as a Board of Adjustment to consider granting an exception to Tina Stein to move a single-family mobile home on property zoned I-1 Light Industrial located at 1084 Main Highway, Orneville, District 9.
I need a motion and a second to grant the exception. I have a motion by Mr. Corville, second by Mr. Louvier. Call for the vote. Meeting adjourned.